obviously, Donald Trump and his fascism is the big story. But did you know there's fascism in America unrelated to the Orange Oompa Loompa? No, you don't. Because the corporate media doesn't recognize what I'm about to tell you as fascism, and it is. So obviously, you saw me in Standing Rock. Emma was in Standing Rock once with me, Ty behind the camera.
3 times.
Oh, 3 times? Excuse me. It was the cold, I forgot. So Standing Rock, obviously, if you want to look at the definition of fascism, Standing Rock was fascism. You had the United States government, it came out later, working with a Blackwater private security type group to essentially brutalize people exercising the First Amendment so that an oil company could make money. That's fascism, straight up. It's not the ugly rhetoric type of fascism that we're seeing with the white supremacists at these rallies. It's not the insane and still unbelievable rhetoric coming from the president, which is also fascism, but it's fascism. It's when the state and the government work with private business to essentially rough up the citizenry. And that's what you saw in Standing Rock. So if you saw towards the end of Standing Rock, the governor in North Dakota, the senators in North Dakota were complaining about the incredible cost to the citizens of North Dakota that these rowdy protesters have had. You know, the cost of like grenades and rubber bullets and militarized police and having to pay for other out-of-state departments to come in, that kind of cost. So it just came out today that the federal government is paying North Dakota $10 million for their law enforcement costs. I'll read you quickly. U.S. Senator John Hoeven says North Dakota will receive $10 million from the federal government to help pay state law enforcement bills related to months of protests over the Dakota Access Pipeline. The state applied to the Justice Department's Emergency Federal Law Enforcement Assistance Program in late June. Hoeven announced the $10 million award on Tuesday. North Dakota is facing a $38 million bill for protest-related costs, and taxpayers could end up footing the bulk of the bill. So what's so unbelievable to that is essentially what this means is in America, you can be brutalized for exercising your First Amendment, and then you foot the bill. That's essentially what this is. And it starts in North Dakota. Maybe next we go to Keystone. The protests over the Keystone being put through again are starting. And it's not only relegated to environmental. There is police brutality in this country. We've seen what happens in Ferguson and Baltimore and with Trayvon Martin, and the list goes on. What if there is, 2 or 3 weeks worth of protests the next time a black man gets shot for being black? You know, it's unbelievable to me. It's not unbelievable to me that the Trump administration would give them the money because it's the Trump administration. It's just unbelievable to me that this happens and it happens in the dark. There is no coverage of it. It is not considered fascism, and there is no outcry. And you want to know something? Don't just be mad about this for your indigenous brothers and sisters. Oh, I sound like Bernie Sanders. Don't only be mad at this for environmentalists. Be mad at this for all Americans. Because when does it end? Maybe soon there will be white supremacists who get roughed up by the police.
Well, yeah, they didn't. But, like, compare what happened in North Dakota to what happened with the Nazis in Charlottesville. I mean, the police presence, and not just the presence, what they did to those protesters, to the water protectors, compared with what they did to the Nazis. I mean, yeah, they were armed and ready, and the Native Americans only had prayer sticks, but that's insane. You still have to treat everyone differently, but it doesn't seem like they did.
Well, let me tell you something, and I really believe this, and this is not about me or TYT, but I do believe this. I think they might have started killing people if there wasn't cameras there. I really do. I had a few people come up to me at the People's Summit and elsewhere thanking me, and I never really thought about it this way, because they saying, like, you save lives, because just the fact that the police knew, like, there was some media there every day that people didn't die. And maybe that's true. It was a lot more than me, like Amy Goodman and Al Jazeera Plus and documentary filmmakers. Josh Fox. It was a coalition of independent journalists. But the point is, it's not just enough to say we can't normalize Trump's fascism. Fascism is prevalent in other aspects of America. The problem is the corporate media doesn't recognize it because they never leave their ivory tower. This is not going to, Yahoo did a quick story. You're not going to see this on cable news. The New York Times isn't going to report about it. It's disgraceful that a state government is getting paid back for the cost of brutalizing law-abiding citizens. Yes, there were some Native Americans or environmental activists who did the wrong thing. Some. By and large, because I saw it all, it was law-abiding people just praying and chanting and banging on drums, and for it, they got shot or grenades, and we know the rest. And to pay back North Dakota, and by the way, the state police of North Dakota have said they are not ruling out the option of taking Energy Transfer Partners up on their offer to pay their costs. So literally, it's possible that the oil company will pay the state's cost of beating the shit out of Native Americans, environmental activists, and journalists. So if you don't think that's just as scary as what Donald Trump is saying, I got news for you. You got to pay closer attention. I'm not taking away from what Trump is saying. It's awful. It's terrible. What happened in Charlottesville is awful. Let's not forget 3 people lost their lives, 2 police officers too. But this is the kind of stuff that happens in the darkness that gets no coverage. And if we don't all together say something about it, it's going to keep happening.
Yeah, I think that what can be learned from the Dakota Access Pipeline and the protests there is that many state governments, not all of them, Vermont is a city on a hill, and there are a lot of wonderful state governments, but many of them are extremely easily corrupted because North Dakota is a state that had a resource. And Energy Transfer Partners said, we will throw as much money as we can at this, and we will exploit this state, which has 800,000 people in it, and we will take over. And that's what really happened. These small state governments, when there aren't strict campaign finance protections, are able to just completely get corrupted by just an influx of money from something like Energy Transfer Partners, where there was so much money involved for that small of a state, and you just saw it, and you saw the brutality of that kind of corruption. It wasn't just people and programs getting cut and people getting systemically hurt. It was people getting beaten. And that's what happens. There are many effects of corruption, and this was one of them.